prided myself on being the least feminine girl ever. I avoided dresses, I bragged about having never had my ears pierced or worn makeup, and I looked down upon other girls who had boyfriends or talked about the clothes they got while shopping. And I really did think myself superior to them. I figured I was being the strong, independent woman, and they were not. Eventually, I hit high school. I stopped to think about the whole thing for a moment. Why was there this other group of girls at all? Why did I, and so many of my peers, feel the need to differentiate ourselves from them, to prove that we weren't like other girls? What might be to blame? Historically, women in media have been portrayed as damsels in distress who need a man to go rescue them and then go on and live happily ever after with said man. The most commonly cited example of this is Snow White. She eats the poison apple, falls into a deep sleep, and goes on and gets kissed by the prince, and they get married. This is usually followed by the explanation that this perpetuates the notion that women are weak, inferior to men, and cannot sustain themselves without a man. Fortunately, we've moved past such archaical genres of storytelling, and we see a lot more female-driven stories where protagonists are strong-willed and independent. Unfortunately, this does come at a cost. Femininity is now something to be ashamed of. The most common iteration of this is having an ultra-feminine antagonist who loves looking pretty, wearing makeup, flirting with boys, serving as a foil to our more cool and tomboyish protagonists who would rather dress more masculinely and do boyish things like play sports. This trope is common in media targeting young girls. Think Bella from Twilight. Her edgy and brooding demeanor attracts Edward because of how different she is from the other girls at their school. Or my personal favorite example, Piper from book series Percy Jackson. As daughter of Aphrodite, goddess of beauty and love, she looks down upon her half siblings for being too obsessed with their looks. For now, though, we'll focus on one single movie from the 2000s called The Cinderella Story. We follow a jockish girl named Sam who was raised by her father, enjoys playing baseball, and in her own words, is behind in the makeup and fashion departments. She's rivaled by preppy, popular girl Shelby, who dresses in pink and in designer brands. Throughout the movie, Sam exchanges texts with a mysterious online lover who's revealed to be Shelby's boyfriend, Austin. Throughout the movie, antics ensue, and they end up falling together and getting into a relationship. Putting aside how weird it is to be flirting with this whole other girl while you got a girlfriend, this movie really does try its best to pit these two women against each other and bash femininity. At one point, when asked about why he likes Sam so much, Austin explains that it's because she's a girl with more on her mind than just her looks, unlike any other girl ever. Media has always been an important part in socializing the youth, and it's a big reason why gender norms are so prevalent nowadays. This movie in particular sends the message that wanting to look pretty can't coexist with being a good-intentioned and strong-willed person. It encourages girls to look down upon, or even villainize those who do choose to present more femininely. The intentions in the movie might have been good, but the resulting execution is that we made this whole circle right back to where we started. It's true that growing up on this genre of feminist movies, I learned that I could be whoever I wanted to be, and I didn't have to conform to certain gender norms. And this isn't something that should be taken away from them. In a similar vein, think back to my example of Snow White. Sure, nearly 90 years later, it doesn't scratch that same itch for feminism that we have nowadays, but it really was unique for its time. It featured one of the first female protagonists, and it showed us the value of being kind in a world that's full of malice. So when we do criticize these 2000s feminist movies, we should appreciate that they were a big step forward for feminism, while also evaluating the message they push of women being in constant competition with one another. This competition isn't helped by the fact that even in our current society, a woman's value is measured by our desirability. This misogynistic mentality is especially harmful to younger women who are prone to imposing unhealthy standards upon themselves thanks to certain celebrities or content creators. The feeling of staring into a mirror and wishing your breasts were bigger, or your waist was slimmer, that your face was better, or that you had a different body altogether, is one that is universal among women. And despite how small and insecure these standards make us feel, a lot of us are prone to pushing them upon others. Usually comes in the form of a comment, calling someone ugly, shaming them for their weight, calling out someone for wearing a revealing dress, or labeling women who wear makeup as fake. I often found myself in that latter crowd. Years of being around people who mocked women with faces full of makeup compelled me to reject looking fake. And I held on to this aspect of myself like some kind of one-up against the women around me, when in reality, I was no better nor different from them. If you had placed middle school me and a girl who did wear makeup and dresses and do all these girly things, the two of us against the patriarchy, they'd classify us under the same category, girls. At the end of the day, misogyny is all the same, even if the language changes. Now, internalized misogyny isn't just a matter of hating other women, it's also a matter of hating yourself. This is usually linked to passively accepting the gender roles imposed upon us, and can be divided into 3 different aspects, as explained by researchers Behrman and Ammerheim: powerlessness, invalidation, and loss of self. A study found that 75% of women surveyed had at some point experienced imposter syndrome, the feeling that they don't deserve their position or the success that they've achieved, despite all the evidence that points otherwise. They feel the need to compensate for their womanliness, to be met at the same level as their male peers. And though they may have years of experience under their belts, and God knows how many awards and achievements they may have, in the end, they still end up doubting themselves. In terms of invalidation, many of us look down upon our own emotions and thoughts as being less valuable than that of a man. We're commonly dismissed as being hysterical or overreacting whenever we show an ounce of emotion, fostering a sense of self-resentment towards these feelings. Admittedly, I myself have an aversion to crying, fearful of being viewed as too feminine by my peers. And I acknowledge that this is a totally irrational fear, and if I started bawling on this stage, I have wonderfully supportive friends and family who would mock me for doing so. However, that sense of self-contempt is still there. And it stops myself and a lot of other women from truly being in touch with ourselves and our emotions. Finally, for that third part of self-hatred, comes loss of self. In Deloitte's 2023 Women at Work survey, 1/3, that's 1 in 3, female respondents reported believing that they had to place their partner's career above their own. Both consciously and unconsciously, we attach our purpose to someone else, whether it be our partner or our children, without acknowledging that we too are fully independent human beings. We have our own desires, our own ambitions, our own careers that deserve to be followed through with. Misogyny is not a problem that we're going to solve overnight. It'd be unrealistic for me to ask all of you to get into one room and find one single uniform solution to it because of how many varied perspectives exist on the matter. However, what I can implore you to do is reevaluate your thinking. Before you jump to criticizing a woman for appealing to the patriarchy or being too feminist, do remember that you're both on the same side. You're both against patriarchy. Simultaneously, our existence as women doesn't have to be defined solely by struggle. It can also be defined as strength, hope, love, and unity. No one deserves to be a victim of the system. Thank you.